Coming to you, South Jersey. I'm meteorologist Dan Skeldon here. It is 7 p.m. Tuesday, which means it's time for Tidal Flooding Talk.
Hi there, I'm Palma, Accardi. We're here at the Irish Pub. Tidal Flooding Talk. This is our second episode, and we are a weekly show dedicated to the challenges of coastal flooding.
All right, and joining with us, we have a different guest every week, and we'll bring in, last week we had meteorologist Jim Eberwine. Next week we're talking insurance with Tom Heist, and we'll promo that more at the end of this one. And we're honored this week to be joined by Cathy Van Duyne of Van Duyne Builders, who has life experience with tidal flooding, and of course she deals with it every day in her line of work. Cathy, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dan. Nice
and we look forward to chatting with you in just a little bit.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, first, a little more. We want to, give a huge shout out to our weekly host here, the Irish Pub in Atlantic City.
164 South St. James Place, free parking. The kitchen and bar is open 24/7.
And they're gracious hosts, and you kind of get this warm, no better place to talk tidal flooding. Great food, great drink, warm atmosphere, and at least for now, there's no tidal flooding outside. Now, that could change later this week. All right, we have an impending March coastal storm. Do I think it's going to be major flooding? No, but probably some minor flooding at the very least later this week. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we want to, focus on Cathy, who again, by choice, or maybe not by choice, has been surrounded by tidal flooding her whole life, again, through her chosen line of work and through her life experience. So, Palma, with the first question.
Well, she's the general manager of Van Duyne Builders, so she has a lot of experience with building. So, in that line of work, how does coastal flooding affect you?
Well, being on a barrier island, it's very important for people to be aware of where they're building and what their surroundings are. And our municipalities do a great job, and the state of New Jersey has done a great job with preparing and keeping us safe with the codes that are in place currently. So we have to comply to all the state codes with regard to elevation and high wind restrictions. And so as it relates to building, we just only build on the barrier island here on Absecon Island. So we have seen a lot over the years and been becoming familiar with the climate and the weather and how it affects general construction and how people live on the island.
Now, when we think back, we're coming up to the anniversary of the March of '62 storm, and that storm kind of changed the way buildings were done. Back then it was just slabs and, not much thought was put into it. That woke up the shore. What did Sandy do? Did Sandy have a similar effect? Obviously, homes aren't built on slabs anymore since the '62 storm, but what did Sandy do to change the construction in your line of work?
Well, it's kind of a two-part answer. That with regard to new home construction, which is primarily what we do, and we do some renovation, a lot of the codes were already implemented and in place with regard to height and requirements and elevation requirements and high wind requirements. I think it mostly made the general public more aware of why those codes were in place and why they felt it was important for people's safety and to protect their assets to have these codes in place. And the general public and our average customer became more aware of those so they could protect their property and their investment. And so they became more accepting of the codes and why the heights where they are today. And also the architecture is necessary to become more creative to accommodate some of these height requirements and have it be still charming and still attractive, even though it's kind of high up in the air. So they've been forced to become more creative in their drawings and things to make it more acceptable to the eye. But in general, the biggest change is that the general public is more aware of what the codes are and why they're in place.
Okay. Do you think those codes could go, any higher? I mean, tidal flooding becoming a little more common. That's one of the reasons we talk about it every Tuesday at 7. And it's a way of life along the shore, and it's been a way of life for you, growing up along the shore since you were a kid. Do we go even higher? Like, what's the future as far as your line of work? Whether or not we have a worse storm than Sandy, does it ever become impossible to build along the shore?
Well, it's a good question because I think that the state and people, meteorologists like yourself, and people in the building trades have done a great job in studying, what the future holds, and having a lot of great data. And watching you on TV has educated a lot of people about what the risks really are. And I think that that we just need to trust that the data is accurate and move forward with protecting our assets as best that we can. And I think it's a pretty good standard right now. But Hurricane Sandy showed us really what Mother Nature can do, and that it's hard to envision it unless you've really seen it, with the power of the ocean and the power of storms. But Hurricane Sandy showed us really what Mother Nature can do.
How about the next question?
Well, not everyone has the resources to build a brand new home. So for average homeowners, what are some, small building projects that people can do to protect against coastal flooding?
It's a good question. A lot of what people can do is to mostly just be aware of the forecasting, and I think the Coastal Coalition is really going to be an important piece of that puzzle, so that people have using social media and things to be aware of what the risks are, and then act on that. Like, you can talk to your insurance agent to see if you can install smart vents, flood vents, to help with protecting your foundation and the damage that flooding can cause to your foundation. So smart vent installation is a key thing that people can do. And there's also some products with regard to windows and doors. If you're doing new windows and doors, you can implement products that use high wind specifications and for wind protection. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of just protect your property, but mostly it's just being aware of the forecast and planning ahead and communicating with your neighbors about what's at risk on your property, and making sure that your property is secure during a storm or a hurricane.
Do you find people are still, everyone loves the Jersey Shore. They love living here. Is there still excitement in building? I mean, what's the building forecast and the building climate? Are you as busy as ever? Busier? I mean, with Jonas and with Sandy and with all these recent storms and that. What's the future for your line of work?
Yes, we're certainly very busy, and I think the building business on the Absecon Island is as strong as it's ever been, and continuing to be progressive. And a lot of people tear existing homes down and build new homes, and that brings the whole community up to a better code standard, which also gives better insurance rates for the community. So tearing down existing homes that are not code compliant and are low lying, and building new homes, I think, is beneficial to the community in general. So yes, we're very busy, and people are as enthused about the Jersey Shore and the beach as they have ever been, and but they are more aware of it, and I think again, the Coastal Coalition's mission is to educate people about how they can be comfortable living here, and be aware of what the risks are, and how to manage those risks.
And that's something that we should have said right off the bat. We did last week, and we are with the New Jersey Coastal Coalition, and the main reason we are here, Cathy's here, Palma and I are here every Tuesday, is to educate, is to bring awareness to tidal flooding. We all know, it happens more often than we'd like, and more often than, it did 30, 40, 50 years ago. But, living at the shore, like you said, is great. We all like doing it, or vacationing at the shore, because this is meant to reach out to those who vacation here too, because tidal flooding can happen in the summer. But, it's a reality, so we just do want to educate. We do want to talk about it every week, bring in different guests. You guys are also invited to ask questions of our guests as well. That's what the comment section is for, or you can just feel free to comment as well. But the Jersey Coastal Coalition really working some great projects we have lined up, that we'll get into as they are unveiled. And it's all it's all for free. The New Jersey Coastal Coalition work doesn't cost taxpayers a dime, and taxpayers and residents and vacationers benefit from the hard work they are doing. So we're really excited to be tied in with the New Jersey Coastal Coalition.
That's an important, not to interrupt you, Palma, but that's an important factor, is that a lot of people are vacationing here or have second homes in the area, and they're not as tuned in to some of the local people maybe about what some of the risks are. So I think even though they're building a brand new, nice, shiny house, a lot of times they don't really understand, you know, that they're living on a barrier island and what that entails. So I think that's why I really support what you guys are trying to do to be able to share that resource with my customers and with local realtors, and so people can be safe and prepare as much as they can for any event.
And that's one of our biggest challenges. We talked a little bit about it last week. You know, not to say locals are more knowledgeable, but when you're here for every nor'easter, you know what minor, what moderate, what major flooding can do. If you're a second homeowner, you come down when the weather's nice. So very seldom do you have.
It's hard to picture it.
It is. It's hard to picture. You see, 3 feet of water up and down your street. You see the pictures or you see newscasts. But when vacationers are here, the weather's nice. It's the beauty of having a second home. You can choose when you want to come down to it. And usually you don't want to come down in a nor'easter.
It's our family has been here since the mid-20s, and so our reference point has been some of these key storms that have occurred in 44, 62, and then a lot of times people forget about the Halloween storm of 91.
The perfect
storm.
Right.
And so that was something that was really my first storm as an adult, where it stopped being fun and started to be more like, oh, this is a really serious situation. Instead of going out and playing in the floodwaters, it became more of like, this is something we have to be aware of and try to. We should have evacuated,
right?
But we thought we were pretty salty and pretty locally tough and everything. But we learned through Hurricane Sandy that the importance of the forecast and the importance of evacuating when you're instructed to evacuate, because we saw so many things that were so unpredictable. Because you think you have all this experience from 1920, we know anything that can happen. And the thing that I learned primarily through Hurricane Sandy was the things that you can't possibly predict, that are dangerous, that's why the authorities tell you to evacuate, and that how crucial that really is. And the worst thing that can happen is you can come home and nothing happened, and that's okay. But people are reluctant to evacuate and leave their homes. But it's very important, and we learned that the hard way.
So 91 was your awakening storm. What was yours? I mean, you probably not the 91 storm. I don't want to date you or date us, because I remember the 91 storm. Mm-hmm. I was trick or treating in New England.
Right.
And when we trick or treated any weather, it was very, very bad up there, and that's where that movie actually originated from, Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Right.
But what was your storm that kind of woke you up to, all right, tidal flooding's real, it's not, storms aren't fun, this is a way of life here?
Well, I was living in Margate at the time for Superstorm Sandy, right on the bay. So I did have to evacuate, and I'm lucky that I did, because when I did get home, there was water on the first floor.
So you're going to take Kathy with you next time you evacuate
them
next door?
To your house?
All right.
Yeah.
One of the stories that I tell people is when I volunteered after the storm, I met a lot of people who were impacted by Hurricane Sandy, and one story was that a woman's neighbor's oil tank floated up and went through her picture window and dumped 300 gallons of heating oil into her living room. So how could you possibly anticipate? So she thankfully had evacuated and wasn't there. But how could you possibly predict something like that? And so that was like my little wake-up call to be like, okay, we can't predict everything. We need to be safe and just trust that the forecasters know what they're.
And we don't always know. And sometimes people evacuate and nothing happens, and they're not going to evacuate next time. And that's going to be a topic. Tom, of a future guest, will be an emergency manager, and the trouble and all that which goes with evacuating. Because some people, no matter what, I think in New Orleans, for instance, with Hurricane Katrina, meteorologists issued a statement: if you stay in New Orleans, you could face death, and people didn't leave. So it's, you can't be any more dire than that. So that's another challenge. I guess my next question for you is, 30, 40 years from now, what does the shore look like? Are all the homes built like on foundations, like low to the ground? Are they all gone? Is every house going to be high? What do you envision the shore? Obviously, it looks a lot different now than it did 30, 40 years ago. Where are we going in the future? If you want to give a forecast, if you will.
I think that progress will continue and people will see the advantages of being at a higher level. I think it really depends on if there's a major storm or a hurricane that kind of expedites that process and moves it along. But I think gradually the smaller, the Cape cottages that are so charming and that we love so much will give way to the houses that are elevated, and hopefully, the architecture will accommodate that and make it so that it's still charming and it's still seashore-like, but still safe. And so I think it'll just continue in that direction. And hopefully we won't have a major storm to help push them home.
Hopefully we won't. Hopefully, and storms are so fickle like that. You could have two horrible storms in like 3 or 4 years, like we did with Jonas, and which was more Cape May County than Atlantic County. But Jonas and Sandy and the derecho and all these storms back to back, or you can go decades without storms. So they call them 50-year storms or 100-year storms, but it doesn't mean they happen every 50 years. You could have two back-to-back years and then nothing for 100, and the average is 50. So.
Well, I was telling Palma that part of the reason why I think the building boom after World War II, my father was a builder with his brother, and that was, after the war, 1944, there was a big storm, and they said, oh, it can't possibly happen again. So the big building boom between 44 and 62 was post-war, after World War II, the baby boomers, and they just couldn't envision that it hadn't been so long since there was a bad storm that they just felt that it was too expensive to build higher, and it was cost prohibitive, and they felt that they hadn't experienced some of the things that we've experienced since, and they really feel it was unsafe. And so much of a lot of Better Heights and a lot of Margate was built in that time frame between 44 and 62. And so I think that accounts for a lot of the reason why a lot of the houses are so low the way they are now. It's just like you were saying about the storms being far apart. And now they seem to be a little closer together.
Any other questions, or did Cathy take care of all yours?
I think she took care of it. I will say we will try to keep informing people of the risk of flooding. So check out our website, njcoastalcoalition.com. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
And a couple questions on here on insurance, which is not quite your line of work, but our next week's guest is, I don't want to call him the guru or the South Jersey expert, but he is in my book. He knows his stuff. So tell us about who will be joining us next week.
Next week we'll have Tom Heist from Thomas Heist Insurance Agency. And we'll be talking a little bit about how to save on insurance and what he does, and after the storm, what he had to see.
And he's also on the board of the New Jersey Coastal Coalition. So, he knows tidal flooding, he knows insurance, as a resident and as a business person. We got some great guests lined up. Again, not only do they deal with it in their line of work, they've lived it and lived through it and didn't evacuate when they should have. All right, I have to call out people that do. But let me always ask, the next time you will.
I will, for sure.
And that's the problem too. That's it's common sense for people to just always think that the next storm is going to be like the last storm. Mm-hmm. So the reason why a lot of people didn't evacuate in Sandy is because they did in Irene and it wasn't bad.
Right.
But now that Sandy was bad, the next one people will evacuate. Yeah. So it is one of the challenge, of meteorologists. But the great thing is what you are doing in building the homes higher and stronger and more to code is if people do defy orders and stay, they are technically safer than they would be in cottages.
Yeah, and it helps to protect life and property. So it's important that the codes are continually updated, and that we have great inspectors and great municipal people on our barrier island that really look out for the local residents, and they do a great job.
We do. Okay, so that's Tidal Flooding Talk, 7 p.m. every Tuesdays. We'll be joined by a guest. You can always see Palma and I here at the Irish Pub. Great food, great drink, and we'll be having a little bit of both probably after this live stream's over.
I will.
You will. Yeah. Free parking as well, and every 7 o'clock. Now we do have a storm coming up this Friday. You guys hoping for a big one?
No.
No. And I do think there'll be some tidal flooding with that. We have a full moon on Thursday, the March full moon. Anyone know what the March full moon is in folklore?
No.
The worm moon.
I don't know how would anybody know that.
It is the full warm moon. February is easier. It's a
That's
snow
why we
moon,
follow
even though
you
we had
now.
no snow in February. But no, we'll have at least some minor tidal flooding. I don't think it's major because of what the wind setup is going to be. But I think multiple tides of minor flooding, which we haven't had a lot of this winter. Knock on wood, right?
Fortunately, yes.
Margate,
You've been pretty dry
so far.
so far. All right, so we are going to have a Friday morning tidal flooding talk, just on the more of a nowcasting of the storm and what to expect. So a lot of these tidal flooding talk episodes are going to be with guests and questions and answers, and we'll get your questions and answers a little more involved. We're still working on the talking and the questions and the comments. So it's a work in progress, but we will answer your questions and comments after the live stream is over as well. Let me see if there's anything on here. Let me multitask here.
Okay.
No specific questions that I see. Some great points, some great comments, guys. Ben Murphy about the insurance increases. Tom can talk to that last week. Protecting assets. The PA people have to continue investing. So that's what Ben says as well. And, you think investing at the shore is,
Yeah, it's
still a great thing.
The ocean is what we love about being here too, and it's our best asset, and the sunshine, the ocean, and the boardwalks, and so that continues to be something that everybody enjoys, of course. And most of the time it's great, but if you have the information that you need, and that's what the coalition can help people, have that can help you feel better about your investment and feel better about putting money so that you can enjoy your time here with your family, and so that people can have their families and grandkids and their kids here, which is what makes it a great place to grow up and a great place to vacation.
And that's what the New Jersey Coastal Coalition is about. The website,
njcoastalcoalition.com.
and again, you can find lots of information there. These tidal flooding talks will be archived, and we'll have podcasts of them. And again, a lot of great projects in addition to this. This is just kind of our window to let you know what we're doing, but a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and we're excited to unveil a lot of that as we go through the year. So, Friday morning, time to be announced, but a brief little tidal flooding talk on the impending March lion. Comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb, theoretically. So hopefully that will be the case. Thanks for joining us, Cathy.
Thank you,
Thank
Dan.
you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Kathy. Thanks, guys.
And Palma and I hope to see you back here soon.